That would be so cool, Gavin, if you and Sean got to meet up. How fun. Seriously. The sheep game is back. Gave the serpent game a rest. If you did the word search, you may have noticed that the words in the word search are using um, stems from this week's lesson. Little spelling practice there. Word searchers are good for that, for spelling stuff. Cool. All right. Well, let's get her going so that we don't run out of time. I think I have to change the number behind me. I do. I'm still in week 4. Give me just a second. I was busy this morning. I didn't get all set up. Oh, sunny beaches. Give me a second, guys. Because it is week 5, not week 4. Okay. All right. How have y'all been this last weekend? Could just change the number, but I want to change the color too. Good. Feeling like fall for you, I hope. We are 1/6 of the way through the school year. Good. Okay. Yeah, same here. Summer is drawing to a close, but it should be in September. Mm-hmm. You don't expect summer to extend too far into September. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. High here of 73 today, so nearly perfect. Love it. All right, guys, do we have any prayer requests that we want to open up with? We are 1/6 of the way through the school year. We're week 5 out of 30. So that's a nice even uh, fraction for you. Yeah, the cold and flu season seems to be started early this year. Sean, are those two things related? Okay. Oh, Paul, that sounds cool. Woohoo, sister birthday. I do not know how to play chess. The people who do know how to play they say it's fun. Gavin, I'm afraid I would be if I were to learn how to play. I can play the heck out of checkers, though. I'm here for checkers. A long enough beard. Is that a reference to old men playing in the park? I do love that Disney short where I think it's called Jerry's Game, where he plays chess with himself. How funny. Well, as you guys can see, look at the agenda that we have today. We're learning about adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections all in the same day. That should tell you something about those 4 remaining parts of speech. We have spent a week or 2 weeks on each of the other parts of speech so far. All the rest of them today. What do you think that tells you about the other four parts of speech? Quicker to learn anyway, or that, or we already know them. Yeah. So basically a review, but buckle up. We got a lot of information coming your way, especially if there are a couple of those that you're like, oh, I'm not so sure about that part of speech. We're going to be covering them pretty quickly. And then we've got other stuff to do as well, like our vocabulary and some plot structure things. And we're going to be writing summaries this week. Got to review what summaries actually are, because sometimes people aren't very clear on that. So let's pray about those things that you guys mentioned, and then we will get to it. Heavenly Father, I thank you for everyone who is here today. I pray that all of these prayer requests, the illnesses, the issues that are coming up ahead of these folks, the challenges, the exciting things as well, which can also come with challenges, are taken care of easily, and we can conquer what we need to. We pray that as we are just neck deep in the semester, that we keep going strong and finish out the rest of the day and the week feeling satisfied with ourselves. In Jesus' name, amen. So 1/6 of the way through the school year and 1/3 of the way through the semester. And if you're like me and you live for the breaks, we have this week's class, of course, today, next week's class, and then we're off for fall break. Can you guys play chess together on chess.com? Like in a digital game? Now, wouldn't that be neat? Ah, I hope you guys can. That would be fun. Any questions on sentence 12? There's a conjunction. We haven't learned that yet, but there she blows. We have learned about verbs, action verb, but the other stuff we haven't really covered. This one had two action verbs in it. The illness blighted and blurred. So they're already throwing, it's still a simple sentence, even though it has two verbs in it because we had the same subject. We'll cover that later. That maybe you already noticed. Here's sentence 13. We had that weird interjection thing. We'll talk about that today. How about an adverb? We don't see those very often. We're learning about those today. Two prepositions. Okay. We'll see if Sean has a quick question. Hopefully you're getting more comfortable with the format of the quiz and even maybe better at the questions themselves that we haven't learned the lessons over, which may be the point of us doing these the way that we have been. I'm seeing a lot of 100s as I'm going in and replacing your not 100s with participation 100s. I'm having to replace fewer and fewer. You guys are doing really well. Oh, Sean. Hate misclicks. Hate them. If we need notes, I'm going to start with adverbs. Yes, I know I started with number 5 because it is our 5th part of speech. They modify verbs, which is an easy one, adjectives, and other adverbs. Okay. Did anybody learn adjectives and adverbs as answering certain questions? Adjectives tell which one, how many, what kind. And then adverbs tell where, when, and to what extent, I think. Anybody learn them that way? I did. Like they taught me that in school. Yeah, Laura, they taught me that way in school, and I really am not sure why they stuck with that for so long, because what they modify makes more sense than answering those questions. But maybe different people learn different ways. I don't know. Anywho, that's another way that you can think about what adverbs do. Okay, so the whale swam slowly. What part of speech is swam? A verb. Okay, so that's how it modifies a verb. How about Ahab is too tall? To is an adverb for tall. The adjective. Now, this is where it starts to get a little hairy. Oh, this is fun. Okay. Adjective. Well, what is tall modifying? Tall is modifying Ahab. So adverbs can be challenging because sometimes we have to think about what they're doing in multiple steps. Okay, so to is modifying tall. What is tall? Well, tall is modifying Ahab, therefore it's an adjective. Okay, so therefore if to is modifying an adjective, it's an adverb. You see how it can get a little muddled in there. So that's why. Okay. All right. I like you too. Like will be a verb, so that one's pretty easy. Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. How about the harpoon flew very quickly? Very is an adverb for quickly. What is quickly? Oh, it's an adverb. How did you know that it's an adverb? Did you have a clue? Because of the ly. How did it fly? It flew quickly. So quickly being an adverb for the verb flew. Oh, and very is modifying another adverb. Mhm. Exactly. So the adverbs are harder for us than adjectives. For that reason that okay, they're sometimes multiple steps. Another reason is because they're not always right next to the word that they're modifying. That makes it fun. And like, wow, it could be like across the entire sentence from the thing that it's modifying. Also, we don't see adverbs nearly as much as we see adjectives. You've noticed that, I'm sure, in the quizzes, like adjective, 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 adjective. When you have to click on adverb as your answer, you're like, oh, look at there. There's an adverb. So, for all of those reasons, adverbs are a little bit more challenging. These words are all adverbs, but they kind of feel conjunctive. They kind of feel like conjunctions because they tend to, you know, bind things together like a conjunction does. Like, however, I'm a hunter. However, I have great respect for nature. However seems to be the coupling point, but it's technically an adverb, not a real true conjunction. Because could I leave however out and still connect those two sentences together? I'm a hunter. I have great respect for nature. Sure, I could. I could leave that semicolon there to do the job of the coupling, not with the adverb. So it's a little deceptive in that way. Okay. All right. But those are adverbs. So notice how many of these have an ly on them too. Not all of them. Hmm. All right. Old Stephen King. Um, do we all know who Stephen King is? Ooh, if you know who he is, do tell. Yes. What are some famous writings of his? Mm-hmm. It. I don't know that one. The Life of Chuck. He did not write Dracula. He wrote a book about Dracula, though, called Salem's Lot. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Stephen King's still alive. Yep. So he wrote a lot of the modern horror, Pet Cemetery. Have you ever heard of The Shining? That's Stephen King. Um, he wrote some non-horror books as well, but he's like super, super successful as an author. He lives in Maine. Who in here? Anybody live in Maine? Nope. I have a couple of Maine students this year. Anywho, Stephen King is a masterful writer. Like, he has sold a ton of books. Well, he used to be before he became a really famous author, he used to be a teacher. He was a writing teacher, and he would teach his students, the adverb is not your friend. Now, not every quote from every teacher is going to be valuable, but this dude clearly knows his writing, right? He's a bajillionaire because he's sold so many books. So I tend to perk up whenever a master gives advice like this. The adverb is not your friend. What do you think he means by that? That's a good guess. That's not exactly what he means, though. He doesn't like them. Why might he not like them? If you use them incorrectly, they can ruin even if you're using them correctly, though, the adverb is not your friend. Mariah, he's warning us, don't overuse adverbs. They are not your friend when you're writing. Listen to this sentence. The very large lion made a quite loud vocal sound, which severely scared the rest of his very large family group. Anybody check out halfway through that sentence? Too much. It's quite annoying. Rewrite that sentence for me, keeping the context, but making it better. Silas. All right. Gavin pared it down. The lion scared his family group. The lion made a sound. Mm-hmm. Or roar. Changed quite loud vocal sound for a loud roar. Silas, I like yours. Is there another word for very large family group that we could trade those words in? Pride. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Much better. The lion made a roar that scared his pride. The large lion made a roar, a loud roar. Right. We can keep some modifying words in there. We don't have to eliminate all of our modifying words, but I used I let me count the adverbs in there. One, two, three, four. Yeah, I used four adverbs in there and quite a lot of adjectives as well. And it made it clunky and boring, right? Even though you guys are saying the same thing, the lion made a roar, which scared his family pride. I said the same thing you did, but because I used too many adverbs and too many vague nouns like family group, it's like trade that in for a much better noun, right? Instead of loud vocal sound, call it a roar. So we're trading in those modifying words for nouns and verbs. Nouns and verbs, much more powerful than these modifying words. So if you find your writing is a little bit boring, try that. Try jazzing it up with better, more specific nouns and verbs and trade in those adverbs and adjectives. The adverb is not your friend. Thank you, Mr. King. Moving on to prepositions. I use the mouse is blank the chair. You may have learned it with another animal and object like a rabbit and a stump or a bird and a branch. Anybody else learn prepositions and a trick sentence to help you with them? I learned rabbit and stump whenever I was learning these. But I think mouse and chair is really cute. I'm going to turn on the whiteboard. No, we cannot use a verb, Silas. That's the exception to this little trick sentence here. But Sean said the mouse is on the chair, near the chair, around the chair, within the chair, with the chair. What are some other prepositions that could go in there? Under the chair, by the chair, next to the chair, atop the chair, in the chair. He's beside the chair, around the chair, below the chair. All prepositions with the chair, between the chairs, on top of the chairs, above the chair. I hate the definition of a preposition, but it's his. Shows the relationship between two things. Now, that is the worst definition, the most vague definition, tells you nothing. So the mouse and chair sentence ends up being how we actually learn prepositions. Although the definition is the best one I can come up with because that's exactly what a preposition does. It is taking two things and it's showing you how it's not really connected, but how they relate to each other. I mean, it's the best I can come up with. How the mouse relates to the chair. Is he on the chair or is he in the chair or is he under the chair? Okay. So the mouse sentence works with physical position prepositions. Notice that every one of these words has to do with where the mouse is around the chair. There's another one, around the chair. Okay. But there are some prepositions in our language which don't work in the mouse sentence. And here they be. During, the mouse is during the chair. No, the mouse is since the chair. No. But these prepositions are still prepositions which show the relationship between two things, but they're showing the relationship more in time or in some other space other than physical, if that makes sense. Has anybody memorized the list of prepositions? There are about 150 of them. I never have. It's easy enough to recognize them, even though there is a finite number of prepositions. Have you really, Laura? Wow. Did you memorize it to a song? No? You must have a memory like ironclad then. My gravy. Right. I'm not even putting it on my to-do list. I don't recommend it. Because it's easy enough to recognize what they are and what they do in a sentence. Did you seriously, Sean? Do you still remember it? Excuse me. Wow. Yeah, no. It's easy enough to recognize them. So, unlike the Mary Had Little Lamb, is our was where and be been, has have had, do just that one's a good memorizing tool, I think, but prepositions we can memorize without it. Okay. So let's do a little bit of practice, shall we? These are movie quotes. Let's find some prepositional phrases in movie quotes. Okay. So I teach prepositions and prepositional phrases at the same time, even though we're not really to the phrases part of grammar yet, because you'll never see a preposition word by itself. You will always see it in a prepositional phrase. If you don't have a preposition word starting a prepositional phrase, you are grammatically incorrect. Right. So we found in Kansas. Not anymore. So a prepositional phrase has to start with a preposition word in, on, under, around, before, something like that. And it ends with the first noun or pronoun that you come to, i.e. Kansas in here. And this is from The Wizard of Oz. I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. Lewis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Tried to watch this movie. I was bored out of my mind. But it is a famous one. Anybody know? Old. It's in black and white. It's so stinking boring. Some people may Disagree. No, I love My Fair Lady. I heart that one. This one, I don't even think is a musical. It's Casablanca. That's a famous quote, though. Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Oh! No, Silas, I hate that you feel that way because we're reading that this year. Mama always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get of chocolates and like a box. What do you know? Good. Movie? I gave him a very thick Southern accent, an Alabama accent, actually. Not Tom. That what a great guess. Not Tom Sawyer, though. This one starred Tom Hanks. He was very young. It's rated PG-13, I think, but it's got some, I mean, it's pushing PG-13, pushing into rated R in a couple of places. So that may be why you guys haven't seen it. It's getting a little bit older because it was when he was very, very young. Run, Forrest, run! Couldn't use that quote because there are no prepositional phrases in it. Oh, what is it? Forrest Gump. I do recommend it with parents' permission. It's so good. It's so good. It won lots of awards. It was really good. Okay, next one. I'm just one stomach flu away from my goal weight. From my goal weight. Very nice, very nice. This one, this one is from a movie about fashion. Emily Blunt stars in it, so does Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep, and it's about a tyrannical boss just terrorizing her assistants. The Devil Wears Prada. Yes. The girl in it is so skinny already that the only way she can get skinnier is to get sick, which is not healthy. Sean, it is set in New York City. You definitely should give her a gander. It's a chick flick, though. I'll warn you. Sunnyside is a place of ruin and despair, ruled by an evil bear who smells of strawberries. Of ruin and despair. Yes, it goes all the way to despair. We have a compound object of the preposition there of strawberries and by an evil bear. Excellent. You guys are starting to pick out what prepositional phrase, like you almost get a feel for them, don't you? You start to see a pattern. Oh, okay. Of ruin and despair, by an evil bear, of strawberries. Toy Story 3 is it. Yes. Where they go to the daycare sunny side. It's so good. I pretend that the 4th Toy Story doesn't even exist because I love the ending of Toy Story 3. Like, they needed to stop there. No more. For real, right? I mean, what better conclusion can you come to? I know. What were they thinking? Like, some of the voice actors even died. They couldn't use all of the voices because some of those people had died. It's like, y'all stop. Know when to stop. 2 is good too. I did enjoy 2. I think 3 may be my favorite though. Good stuff though. Good stuff. There's no crying in baseball. That's an easy one. Short little sentence in baseball. That is an awesome guess, Laura, but it is not The Sandlot. Another one of my favorite movies though. Not Rookie of the Year. Another great guess. It's A League of Their Own. That's what it is, also starring Tom Hanks. This is the 3rd Tom Hanks movie that I have quoted. I think I like Tom Hanks. Yeah, yeah, he's a drunk baseball manager, and he finally is getting into coaching these women who are replacing the men who've gone off to war. A League of Their Own is such a good movie. It is just so good, and the woman is just kind of upset, and she's crying, as women sometimes do, and he's like, "Are you crying? There's no crying in baseball." He's so good. He's so good. "I'm the king of the world." This is definitely Titanic, yes. Not a very popular movie, especially when it came out, but it was not the best movie, I thought. Eh, I only meh recommend it. It's a long one. Oh my gosh. It's a long one. Anyway, of the world, prepositional phrase. How about this one? It is so long. And though every single human in the stands or in the commentary boxes was at a complete loss for words, the man who in his life had uttered fewer words than any of them knew exactly what to say. You guys are finding all the prepositional phrases in there. In the stands, in the commentary boxes, at a complete loss for words, in his life, of them. Sean! Nailed it, dude! That's exactly right. It's the end of Babe. I know, right? Silas, agree to disagree, my friend. I love almost all these movies. I don't love Casablanca. Okay, I put parentheses around "to say" because it's something other than a prepositional phrase, although it does start with the preposition word "to." "To" also begins another type of, uh, phrase for us, though, infinitive phrases, right, so we won't go into that right now, but it is not yep, it is not a prepositional phrase. Good eye to find the preposition, though, so alright, couple of questions about prepositional phrases for you. Um, does every sentence in our language have to have a prepositional phrase? There are plenty of fine sentences out there that don't have prep phrases, although, do we see them a lot? They're very common. Okay. Where do they tend to land in the sentence? Close or at the end? Correct. Correct. Do they have to be at the end, though? Obviously not. Um, None of our sentences in these examples start with prepositional phrases, but can a sentence start with a prepositional phrase? Yes, it can. In fact, the very first sentence of the very first book of the Bible starts with a prepositional phrase. If the Bible's able to start, then you can too. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's right. So when I'm looking for prepositional phrases, anywhere in the sentence is fair game to find one, but I tend to gravitate toward the end of the sentence to find them. I mean, look at, let's see, numbers 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So 6 of the 10 have ended with prepositional phrases, and most of them are close. Um, so we said that you don't have to have one, so you can have as few as no prepositional phrases. Is there a maximum number of prepositional phrases I can have in a sentence? That's why I put that number 8 down there to show you that there can be a bunch in there. Technically, there is no limit. Now, quality of writing starts to suffer if we add too many prepositional phrases, but grammatically speaking, you can put as many as you want in there. How long is a prepositional phrase typically? On average, 3, 4 words. Ah, what's the minimum? There is a minimum number of words a prep phrase has to be. A due. Yes, you have to have a preposition and you have to have a noun or pronoun at the end. The noun or pronoun at the end is called the object of the preposition. So, guess what kind of pronouns we need to see in prepositional phrases if they end with objects of the preposition? We don't need subject pronouns, but we need object pronouns, which is why we never say between you and I. That is incorrect. It needs to be between you and me because we need the object form of the pronoun I or me. It goes with me. Ah, there you go. What's another question I had for you? Oh, what's the maximum number of words a prepositional phrase can be? We said a minimum of 2. What's the maximum? 5 is a great guess. Gavin said there is no maximum. Correct. There is no maximum. You can make a prepositional phrase as long as you want. Give me a long one. You just got to put a lot of words between the preposition and the object of the preposition. Well, that's 2 prep phrases back to back, in the house and on the playground. Of all of the all of all the crazy thing, well, of all would be the prepositional phrase there. So let's take, in the very long food line. There you go, there's a 6-worder. Of everything is a prepositional phrase. So that's just 2 word. It's kinda hard to make them long though, right? Usually we stick to the 2, 3, 4-worders. Let's take in the house. Paul gave me in the house. In the, uh, dark, dusty, haunted, two-story, uh, giving adjectives. Abandoned, there you go. Lots and lots of adjectives for house in there. In between in and house is how you make a prepositional phrase really, really long. But again, the reason that we see them shorter is because making really, really long prepositional phrases gets boring. So we only typically see 2, 3, 4-worders. All righty. Fun fact, you will never find your subject or your verb inside of a prepositional phrase. The reason for this is prepositional phrases, the job of the phrase is to add detail to the sentence. They're actually modifying phrases. So they're just extra, just like an adjective or an adverb in the sentence. They don't ever play the main role in the sentence like a subject or a verb. I think we talked about everything else. So moving right along, I think we have time to cover conjunctions and interjections. We'll see. Do we all remember conjunction junction? What's your function? Anybody in here never seen conjunction junction? Kids, and so it doesn't give all of the details that you need to know about conjunctions. It's a nice start though. He's talking about the fanboys mostly. I know, right? If you've been with me for all 4 years, you've watched it every year. Okay, so he said, "And, but, and or will get you pretty far," and they will. Those are the most commonly used coordinating conjunctions. He didn't explain the difference between coordinating conjunctions and subordinate conjunctions because it was a 3-minute song made for little kids on Saturday morning cartoons. I know, right? And do you not sing it at random parts during your day? Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Okay, so that's exactly what they do. They're hooking up words and phrases and clauses. Our coordinating conjunctions are connecting two things, word, phrases, or clauses that are on equal ground, i.e., the train track. example that they give. So, whenever we have a coordinating conjunction, co meaning together, neither one is more important than the other. Neither one happens before the other. There's just like an equal coupling. Okay. So that's why we've got the fanboys and button or are in there. Now, for FOR, that one looks like a preposition. The mouse is for the chair, the flowers are for the girl. That is often used as a preposition, not a conjunction. I will give 5 points to a person who can use for as a conjunction for us. Nope, that's a preposition. Mariah. 5 points for Mariah. Read her sentence. I don't know, for you never told me. Yes, out the gate with it. Ah, Gavin. Exactly. Good job. Good job. What do their sentences sound like, though? I don't know, for you never told me. He went to bed, for he was tired. What does it sound like? Nope. Silas, yours is a preposition. It sounds very elegant. Paul, today we would say because. We wouldn't use for as the conjunction there. We would trade that coordinating conjunction for in for the subordinating conjunction because it's old English speak. She left the house for she was late. It almost sounds like you got to use an accent, right? So for is like an older sounding conjunction. We use them, we use for as a preposition most of the time. Now we keep it in our coordinating conjunction list because otherwise it would be the and boys, not the fanboys, I guess. So it is technically a conjunction, but it's an old one that we don't use very much anymore. We see nor and yet and so as conjunctions quite often, but nor are definitely our normal fanboys. Oh, let's see. So our seventh one is conjunctions. They're hooking up words and phrases and clauses. That's what they do. Then we have subordinating conjunctions. What does sub mean? So the train track analogy doesn't work for subordinating conjunctions because the two things that we're connecting are not equal. One of them happens before the other, or one is more important than the other, or one happens before the other happens, like in a cause and effect situation. He did in the song Conjunction Junction use some subordinating conjunctions when he was talking about what taking a walk down by the lake where I often see a duck and a drake. Although I know that's an absurd thought. He used several and he emphasized them, but like I said, in a 3-minute song, he didn't explain that subordinating conjunctions are a different kind of conjunction than and, but, and, or. If they could speak. That's right. So subordinating conjunctions connect usually clauses that are on unequal ground. And this is the list of them. I've got the ones in red that you kind of need to, to put into to memory. But you tend to, I don't know, you tend to start to recognize these a little better without memorization. Kind of like prepositions. Anywho, they connect things just unequally. Here are how they are used. Oh, sorry, this is not coordinating. These are subordinating. Look at how they are connecting two clauses together. What kind of sentences do these make whenever we use subordinating conjunctions? I will give you an allowance when you clean your room. If we don't listen, we won't understand. Complex, Mariah, yes. So we'll revisit subordinating conjunctions when we study complex sentences. So kind of put a pin in that. All right. Um, it's time for our break. So let's actually go and into our playing area while we're on our break. And then when we come back, we will look at interjections and be done with grammar finally for the day. I'll see you guys in 5. Okay, I have not figured out what the other chat thing is yet. Can you guys see the other chat with each other? Okay. I don't know. Hmm. All right. So let's lay off of that one because it's kind of in the background. I understand. Like I can still see it, but we'll use this one. This one is the chat plus. It's better for like using the emojis and stuff like that, like a little bit more user friendly. Apparently, you can put gifs and stuff in there too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, let's learn what interjections are. It's the last and the least of our parts of speech. Interjections. If I had to guess when our language was being organized and grammar was being figured out, I bet interjections were not the first were not part of it at first. I bet we only had 7 parts of speech because interjections don't really serve any grammatical purpose. They just throw emotion into the sentence. It doesn't react with any other words. It doesn't name anything or give any action, doesn't modify, nothing like that. So it's just like mainly grunts and noises. Although we do have a couple of words that are definitely distinct words like yes and no and all the variations of yes and no. Exactly, exactly. So interjections are just kind of thrown in there. Typically, they are found at the beginning of the sentence. And if you put them, okay, is an interjection. If you put them at the beginning of the sentence, then you need to put a comma between them and the rest of the sentence. So if I'm going, well, I'm not sure, or I think so, then I need to put a comma. Same thing with yes and no. Separate. Can we find interjections other than the beginning of the sentence? Yes, we can. We can. But typically, we find them at the beginning. Mhm, mhm. Typically. Okay, let's identify the parts of speech. We'll just go through these just for speed's sake because we still have a bit to cover. Gotcha, John. Okay. Yes, what part of speech is it? Interjection. Good. And number 2, illegible. What part of speech? Adjective. Very good for illegible handwriting. Wow. Interjection. Tortuous. Adjective for highway. Good. Ah. Interjection. Sacrosanct. Not a noun. We may not know what sacrosanct means. The principles are sacrosanct. It's an adjective for principles. Good. How about metamorphosis? That's a noun. How about wow again? Interjection. After. Preposition. Good. Manual. Adjective for labor. Excellent. Okay. Now that we've covered all 8 parts of speech, everything on level 1 should be in our wheelhouse, should be doable. Anyway, you still get participation grades for doing these because, of course, the quizzes contain all the other levels. But now, level 1 is attainable. Okay, Laura had this question for a couple of weeks ago. She looked at Euclid's and she asked me, why is it a noun? Now, it was a mistake of mine, Laura, that I did not have both noun and adjective as options for that possessive noun because we see that it is also modifying, but it's called a possessive noun is the reason that we default to noun if we have to choose one over the other. Yep. But I should have had both possible answers. So if you put Euclid's, if you put noun or adjective, that's a little large, then you would be correct. There we go. How about elements? Noun. Very good, very good. Contained. A verb. Explorations. Ends with an ION. That's a noun. Of. Preposition. Geometry. One of the only maths I like, including. Not an interjection. Good guess, though. Not a verb, not a conjunction. Not an adverb. It's a preposition. Very good. Octagons and tetrahedrons. There's a $4 word. Good. And that's all that we've learned. Good answers. Good answers. Okay, let's move on, shall we? To our confusing words of the week. We've got 2 words that are not exactly pronounced the same. We've got advice and we've got advise. Soft C and the S makes a Z sound there. Advice is the noun, though, if you're going to give advice. And then advise is what you're doing when you give advice. But they are 2 separate words. If you have a certain accent, then when and when might sound the same. When. Some people pronounce this when versus win, but they sound really, really similar. But when, of course, is an indicator of time, and WIN. Yep. Silas, are you being sarcastic or do you hear a difference with your accent? Do you, Mariah? Uh-huh. They differ. Some people even pronounce the H, which technically you're not supposed to. It's a silent H in there, but they might say when versus win. I hear that they're about the same when I say it. When I'm there, I win the prize. Sounds the same? Mm-hmm. You just can't help it. So it sounds different for you, Victoria, when and win. I guess it's an eh sound for some. When. Ah. Which is why we do these. Okay. Moving along. Doesn't sound different for you, Susie. Only for certain areas are those confusing words of the week. All right. So our mystery questions. Raise your hand if you want to answer one. Sean, answer number 1 for me, please. Fred, number 2 belongs to Fred. Mariah, if you'll do number 3, please, Mariah. Gavin, if you'll do number 4. Victoria, number 5 belongs to you. Yes, ma'am. Silas, number 6. Ooh, a little alliteration there. Silas, number 6. Paul, if you'll do number 7, please. Lindsay, if you'll do number 8. Aaron, if you'll do number 9, please. And Laura, number 10. Look at that. 9 is a hard one, Aaron. Laura, are you able to put your answer up there? I know you're on a mobile device today. Yes, Silas, you are. Ah, gotcha. All right, Laura. Number 1. Is a resonant voice one that doesn't carry over a distance? No, it does carry over a distance. So resonant, son meaning sound, re meaning again. So a voice that is resonant is doing what? The again part is the clue there. Echoing. It's loud enough that it creates an echo. That's right. So it's resonant, it's very loud, very strong, and it comes back at you because it bounces off something else. Good. Number 2, is Robert a surname? It can be, though typically we hear Roberts or Robertson as a surname. What is a surname? Last name. Sir means over, though. Make sense of that. If a surname is the over name, but our first name comes first, why would the surname be the over name? Maybe. No, not your nickname. It's your last name. The family name, the name that's over your whole family. We're the Bontraegers. It's the name we all share that's over our household, so that's why we call it a surname. So if you're asked about your surname, they're asking about your last name. In a blended family situation, not everybody shares the same last name, but traditionally, of course, we do. You will share the last name of the others in your household, you know, typically, but that is your surname. So Robert is not typically a surname. It's Roberts or Robertson. Number 3, do most executives use chronometers? They do if they want to tell time. Chrono, time. Meter, measure. Give me an example of a chronometer. You use one. You use a couple. A watch, clock. What about a chronometer that breaks things up not by seconds, minutes, and hours, but by days, weeks, and months? A calendar is also a chronometer. Anything that measures time. A metronome could be a chronometer. Yes, it could. An hourglass is also a chronometer. A sundial is also a chronometer. There you go, Sean. There you go. Number 4. Is Great Britain ruled by an octarchy? It is not. What is an octarchy? 8 people. What a random number. That would be very strange, but I guess it's a word. Maybe it's a thing some places. I've never heard in history where it was. But yeah, an octarchy. Now, technically, they're not even a monarchy. They do have a king and have had queens and kings in the past, but they don't really rule. They're more advisors slash figureheads, not really ruling the country anymore. Now they're they have a parliament, and it's much more than 8 people who rule a place. I don't know how you would come to that number 8 people. We got 8 people. What? 8 people. Okay. Whatever y'all want to do. Number 5. Is a viable fetus able to live? Yes. Via means to live. So something that's viable is able to make it, able to live. There's nothing wrong with it. It's able to keep going. Exactly, Fred. It's more like for tradition and yeah, like I said, it's like almost like mascots. They would probably be insulted to hear me say that, but more like I said, figureheads, not real power. Anyway, viable means to live. Number 6, is an amiable person friendly and likable? Yes, they are. Amat, they changed the spelling to make the word amiable, but AMAT means to love. So, an amiable person is a loving person, usually. They're going to be kind and friendly. Number 7, is it a good thing to be cognizant of the laws? Did you know that not knowing the laws is not an excuse for breaking them? Like, that's not a defense that they will accept in a court of law. I didn't know murder was wrong, but you still did it. You're still guilty. That's why it's important for you to be cognizant. COGN is to know, to be cognizant of like traffic laws in your area because you may have some funny ones that you have to know how to do them because if you get stopped for breaking a weird law like not knowing how to use a roundabout or something, um, they will still give you a ticket even if you're like, I didn't know. Otherwise, everybody who got caught for a crime would be like, I didn't know. Not an excuse. You must be cognizant. You must know the laws. Number 8, is a contrast an explanation of why two things are alike? No, it is not. What is a contrast? Contra. Contra means different. So a contrast is when you've got two things that are different from each other. Okay. I will tell my kids sometimes whenever yeah, there are some days that no matter what I say, the answer is going to be like a disagreement or the opposite of what I say. So I will tell my babies, I'm like, you're being very contrary today. And what I mean is they are contradicting, they're going against everything that I say, no matter what. I could say that the sky is blue, and they're like, no, it's not. Okay, fine. You're just being very contrary, aren't you? Contra, against. Number 9 is an interesting use of the word. We'll talk about the break apart and what the word means today. Does a decimated army have anyone left? Aaron had no on here at first, then he changed it to maybe some, but no. Um, decimated. Give me your own definition. What do we think of when we think of decimated though? Gone or almost all gone, right? Decimated. I've defeated it completely. But Victoria said, but wait, DEC means 10. So if an army has been decimated, then by definition, only 10% of it has been killed. Interesting. I don't know where that. Thanks, Bubble. The original definition of the word has morphed. That happens occasionally where we exaggerate more and more um, to eventually the pieces of the word don't match the current definition of the word. And this is a word that's happened to. So no longer just 10% defeated, it is more like 100% defeated. So really, we should call it sentiated, right? Cent means 100. You've just sentiated the whole army, not decimated. Decimated is not too bad. We did pretty good. 90% of us are still left. Hey, high five, everybody. Yeah, no. Decimated today is very different. Laura is going to answer in the chat for this one because this one was hers. Will a thermotropic organism grow in the direction of heat? Thermotropic. What do you think, Laura? Correct. It will. We think of most plants as being heliotropic, helio meaning sun and trope meaning to grow, but thermotropic would be heat growth, like growing in the direction of the heat. Now, I don't know of any organisms that are quite like that, but I know that like sunflowers, you've ever done the sunflower thing where it's facing the window where the sun's coming in, you turn it around and it's going to grow itself in the way of the sun. I guess some things will do that with heat. Thermotropic. Anywho, that's our vocabulary today. Let's move on to talking about plot. Okay? This should look familiar. Where are we? Or actually, no, let me back up. What is the climax so far, if we have come to it, of Treasure Island? Oof, that was tough. We like Jim being caught. Possibly haven't come to it, but wait, the climax looks like it's the dead middle of the book based on this plot structure. But it isn't. Yeah. Imagine if a story's climax, the most important part, the most highest energy, most emotional part, the climax, if it were in the dead middle, then it would be weird because okay, so we've got to the most important part in the middle, and then we have half the book to go. What could they possibly do in the second half of the book? Exactly, exactly. So our plot structure tends to be exposition does tend to it depends on the book, right? The exposition can be pretty long. But then we've got little ups and downs all the way up to the climax. Like there's little false climaxes, some excitement and then it wanes a little bit. Some excitement and then it wanes a little bit. And then we find the climax and then the falling action and then the resolution. So the pink line is more accurate to what a plot structure actually looks like, but for simplicity's sake, we do the proportional climaxes and the peak of the mountain. But just so we know, the climax is typically toward the end. It won't be, I guess it could be, but it usually won't be on the last page. What would happen if the climax were the last page of the book? That's what I was thinking. Cliffhanger. Yeah, we do need a little wrap up after the climax. Exactly, Aaron. We need a what happens after that big point, right? We need a bow if it's a standalone book. Like you said, if there's a sequel, okay, we ended on a climax and we want to read more, but we want to read more after the climax. We don't want it to end right there. We need a little more. Mariah, I have seen the climax happen and a couple pages later, the book wraps up. So the falling action and resolution are very, very short. But most of the time, the climax is a couple of chapters from the end. And then we've got some sort of okay, what happened after the big battle or after the breakup or after the whatever, after the first prize was won, whatever the climax happens to be. It is a bit more of a rugged mountain. Exactly, exactly. So we may not have come to the climax just yet. Okay, we already talked about how Jim is our first person narrator. But in chapter 16, did you notice the point of view switched? Jim was no longer our narrator. Did that throw anybody off? Kept up with it? Okay. All right. And then it switched back to Jim. Why did Robert Louis Stevenson do this? And only for a little bit. There are plenty of books that have multiple narrators, but usually it's pretty equally dispersed. Here we've got Jim, most of it. Little blip is Dr. Levinston, whatever his name is. And then switch back to Jim. Where's my boy? Oh no, my boy. Ah, Jim wasn't in the center of all the action for a little bit because he was captured or he was on the island. All right. I don't know. I have no idea if Robert Louis Stevenson intended for this to be a thing from the beginning, or if while he was writing, he was like, "Dadgummit, I have written this entire book from Jim's point of view, and now I need to know what's happening back on the ship. What am I gonna like?" He probably sat there for a minute, and was like, "What am I gonna do? All right, we'll just change points of view for a minute." So you can see how having a first person narrator limits the story quite a lot because wherever the narrator is where the story is happening. What if there's action happening away from the narrator, right? Away from the first person character narrator. It's like, oh my gosh, dang it. This is something that needs to be told in real time, not them be like, hey, Jim, this is what we did over on the ship while you were, hobnobbing with Ben Gunn out there and a crazy thing. So if it seemed weird, I don't know it, but I suspect it was not really something that Robert Louis Stevenson thought through very well. He does have an old writing style. It's a very Victorian sound to his writing. All right. Glad that it wasn't too bad for you guys. As we wrap it up here, let's talk about writing summary. Speaking of wrapping up, right? Because the summary is just a wrap up. You read what you're summarizing until you understand what you're summarizing. You can't very well summarize the high points if you don't understand what you're reading. So if something is needing to be summarized, you've got to understand it. Take notes on the highlights if you need to, especially if it's something big, and determine the most important parts. So are you required to give every single detail about what happens if you're asked to summarize something? In fact, I don't want every single detail if I've asked for a summary. Just the high points, just the important things. Yes. Please, for the love of all that is holy, don't tell me the color of the character's shirts unless that's very important to the plot. Okay. All those little details can be left out. Well, exactly, Silas. That would just be a retelling. So some people have a hard time knowing the difference between retelling a story and summarizing a story. If I want you to retell it in your own words, yes, I want every single detail, just kind of in your own words, right? But if I'm asking you to summarize, don't give me all of the details. I want just the highlights, just the very, very most important parts. Okay. So, your job in your journal this week is to summarize what you're reading in your Advanced Academic Writing 1 book. I want no more than 10 sentences. You're reading pages 4 through 10. So, what is that? 6, 7 pages total in Advanced Academic Writing? So, wrapping it up in 10 sentences may be kind of tough for some. That is a practice in summarizing for you. We're going to be finishing up Treasure Island, chapters 28 to the end. So the climax is yet to come. Yes, we are. And then you have a bunch of little quizzes for all the 4 parts of speech that we learned about today. None of them are very long, but don't wait till the last second because of course there's a lot to it. Okay? So kind of a heavy week, check mark wise, checking things off, but it still shouldn't take you too terribly much time. All right. That's it for us, everybody. So if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, you are dismissed. Aye, aye, you are dismissed, sailors. See y'all next week. Just a couple minutes, but yeah.